My 33-year-old wife is a type A person with a leadership role at work and acknowledges being a bit obsessive, pessimistic, and anxious. These qualities have seemed to serve her well in her career, which is great. However, when she brings this energy into our relationship, I feel resentful. I'm the more optimistic one and have worked hard to manage my own anxiety through medications and therapy and generally feel decent these days. However, when I join her in repetitive planning, it usually makes me feel confused, frustrated, and overwhelmed. And this state takes energy and time to shake off. I have an emotionally strenuous job and like to spend my time outside of work relaxing, being creative, and so on. She likes to spend it thinking of every possible solution to an upcoming scenario, even when in my perception, we have already come up with a solid plan. When I tell her that I am happy with the current plan and that it stresses me out to be constantly reworking the same scenario, she seems to hear me in that moment. But she will often do the same thing again even an hour later, and does it at least several times a week, seemingly without awareness of how I feel. When she is in this place, she doesn't feel present for any conversation or connection other than around the plan of the moment. She also makes comments about how she handles more than I do, which feels unfair, as she is usually unwilling to let me do something my way and at a slower pace than she would. I'm unsure of how to handle this situation, as I know she feels better talking out the possibilities with me, while I feel worse. One part of me resents what I see as her regularly getting her needs met at my expense, and wishes she would go into therapy or take anti-anxiety medications. However, when she tried therapy in the past, she didn't think she needed it or was getting anything from it, which surprised and dismayed me. Other complicating factors: as a therapist, I know I am much more knowledgeable and better equipped to manage my own emotions than the average person. So part of me thinks I should try to manage my own stress about how she approaches things instead. Not to mention, I'm aware I am sensitive to others' moods, which feels like my burden to handle, and can sometimes feel entitled to my needs being prioritized. I think it's important to care for a partner as you're able, but it often feels like she's dragging us both down with her anxiety, and I'm unable to help her. I'm so stuck in my perspective right now. It would be helpful to hear from others who can relate to either my wife or myself in order to potentially see another solution. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yeah, I can see how draining this would be for the non-anxious partner. I'm dealing with something similar right now, except the ruminator is my mom. She constantly brings up high-stress topics during leisure times, and it's one of the reasons I just avoid her calls now, LOL. Actually, thinking back to my own comment advice to OP, I should probably try a version of that script with my mom, instead of just avoiding her ha 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 ha. Something like, "Hey mom, I love you, and I know you don't mean to stress me out, but I've repeatedly asked that certain topics be off limits during non-planning conversations. It's continuing to happen, that these stressful topics are brought up at inappropriate times, and it's making me hesitant to answer the phone. I'd like to talk to you more often, but I need you to hear how distressing this pattern of behavior is on my end, and I need you to make real steps to change it before I'm going to feel comfortable taking casual phone calls when I'm just relaxing and not in making 5-year plans mode. I'll work on the wording haha." One thing I've really appreciated and learned from the blogger I mentioned, Ask a Manager, is that it's actually not unkind to use plain language and state what is happening, calmly but clearly. For me, I used to always soften the message, so much that I think what I was actually doing was burning the lead and not actually communicating how distressing a behavior was for me. It felt kinder in the moment to not be blunt and direct with my words. But in hindsight, it may have been the lonelier road, since it meant I pulled back from certain relationships. That's a tangent about me, though. Sorry, OP. Hope it may be somewhat useful, though. Comment 2. When I tell her that I am happy with the current plan and that it stresses me out to be constantly reworking the same scenario, she seems to hear me in that moment, but will often do the same thing again even an hour later, and does it at least several times a week, seemingly without awareness of how I feel. When she is in this place, she doesn't feel present for any conversation or connection other than around the plan of the moment. Since you're a therapist, You know that this cycle needs to be disrupted. You need to have a more long-form meta conversation about the process of her planning. No content allowed. Does the constant planning and ruminating actually help her feel better? Or is it just a habit that she can't break? Perhaps you could both brainstorm about how her need to plan out loud is affecting you, and what would be an effective and respectful way for you to remind her of your boundaries. The fact that she seems to respect your first request indicates that she knows your needs are important, but she's just too stuck in the cycle to stop. I think she would benefit a lot from writing too. Perhaps simply writing out her thoughts and plans would be an easy first step. That way, instead of floating around talking at you while you are disengaged, she can compile all of her thoughts and condense them into the bullet points for you to review when you are ready and able. Then, perhaps she could try therapeutic journaling later, if the writing out her plans is favorable. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking with me here. So, let me tell you about the mess that unfolded last week. It started with a simple mistake on my part. I accidentally sent a text meant for my therapist to my wife. It was about her, how I felt drained by her constant planning and how it was affecting me. She saw it, and you can imagine how that went down. She was furious, felt betrayed, and we had a huge argument. I tried to explain, but it just made things worse. In the heat of the moment, she decided to prove she could handle things without me. She took on a massive project at work, one that she'd been eyeing for a while, but I'd always been hesitant about because of the stress it would bring. She was determined to show she could juggle it all. The project was a huge event, and she threw herself into it. I mean, she was working late every night, barely sleeping, and the tension at home was thick. I felt guilty for my mistake, so I didn't say much. Just watched her spiral deeper into her obsession. Then, the event day came, and it was a disaster. The caterer bailed last minute, the keynote speaker got sick, and to top it off, a storm hit, causing a power outage. She was devastated, and I could see it was too much for her. But instead of leaning on me, she pushed me away, blaming me for not supporting her enough. I wanted to help, but she wouldn't have it. She spent the next few days fixing the fallout from the event, working even harder to make up for what happened. I felt helpless, watching her struggle and not being able to do anything. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. Her boss called her in for a meeting. I was worried she might lose her job, but it turned out to be the opposite. Her boss was impressed with how she handled the crisis and offered her a promotion. It was a big deal, more responsibility, more stress, but she accepted on the spot without even discussing it with me. Now she's more consumed by work than ever, and I'm left feeling like a spectator in my own marriage. I know I should be happy for her, but I can't shake the feeling that this isn't going to end well. She's riding high on her success, and I'm just bracing for the next storm. Thanks for reading. Aita for cutting off my ex who bought a haunted house and still expects my help. Update. He just broke up with me on the phone, saying we are toxic and we need to go our separate ways. He said he would consider getting back together in the future, but not now. I said goodbye. I, 33-year-old female, don't know what to do about my relationship. 2 years with my boyfriend, 44-year-old male. I am seeking input. Recently, we have had serious conversations about our future, but he has escalated these conversations into hours-long avalanches of arguments that spiral out of control, where he talks 90% of the time, doesn't hear me, and vacillates between adoration, I love you more than I loved anyone. I'll do anything to make this work, criticism. You're the problem. You aren't giving me the opportunity to speak, correcting how I talk. Well, if you said it like this, then I would have understood you. That hijack all my sentences, help rejecting, will not engage in solutions, fatalism. I'm the worst. I've ruined everything. It can become a 6-hour-long argument, nightly this week, that leaves me feeling unheard, exhausted, dysregulated, and shut down. Since the conversations don't end in resolution or problem solving, he essentially keeps me in limbo if he will stay with me, uncertain about the future. So I am so heartbroken lately. I've actually set boundaries and offered to end the relationship if he's so uncertain about me. which he contemplates for a day or so, but then comes back saying, "I'm fully committed and you're the one." I'm stuck in limbo. We did 3 months of couples counseling. The last few sessions, he got in arguments with the counselor, and the most recent session, I asked the counselor to keep it to a 1-hour problem solving, and it instead turned into a 2.5-hour fatalistic train that went off the rails that even the counselor couldn't contain. To where now my boyfriend is quitting couples therapy and wailing, "That therapist doesn't hear me. I've tried everything with you." And hopeless. But it's my fault. He has been in his own therapy and is diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder, HPD. Background: he cheated in the beginning, then I felt hurt and would ask. Then he would argue and lie, then I'd retreat or shut down. Now he says he can't trust me because I shut down/disappear at the sight of triggers. Him flirting in the DMs and that I can't just get over it already. My pattern of shutting down makes him uncertain that he could trust me in the future. But this hurts me and makes me anxious around him now. I feel like I've been held in limbo lately, uncertain if he wants to be with me and if he can be the partner I need. This week, the arguments escalated because he impulsively purchased a multi-million-dollar historic haunted house, converted into commercial use for an investment opportunity that he could live above alone, without my input, upset that I was sad about it, and now claims, "I wanted to raise a family with you there, but now I can see that you can't dream big with me." I was sad and felt so out of the loop, like he wasn't including me in his future, and then felt gaslit with his statement out of the blue. So I addressed it, and of course, it was followed by a fight that spiraled into total oblivion. How to move forward with this type of person? How do I prevent these conversations from going off the rails into several hour-long nightmare theatrics that are non-productive? Is it possible to contain these? Is he purposely keeping me in drama limbo without solutions? And yes, as I finish writing this, I see the train wreck this is, and have my answer LOL. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. How to move forward with this type of person? You can't. How do I prevent these conversations from going off the rails into several hour-long nightmare theatrics that are non-productive? You can't. Is it possible to contain these? It's possible for him to contain them if he wants to. Is he purposely keeping me in drama limbo without solutions? Yes. Comment 2. He cheated in the beginning, then I felt hurt and would ask. Then he would argue and lie, then I'd retreat or shut down. Now he says he can't trust me because I shut down, disappear at the sight of triggers, him flirting in the DMs, and that I can't just get over it already. Sorry, no. You're 33. You should be able to recognize that this isn't healthy. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So, after he broke up with me, things got even more twisted. I thought we were done, but then he started showing up at my work with flowers, making grand gestures, saying he made a huge mistake. I was confused and angry, but a part of me missed him. I let him take me out to dinner, where he apologized profusely and talked about how he's been seeing a new therapist who's really making a difference. But then, a week later, I found out he was seeing someone else. Not just anyone, but my former best friend. I couldn't believe it. The betrayal stung like a slap in the face. I confronted him, and he had the audacity to say it was my fault for not taking him back sooner. That I pushed him into her arms. I was livid. I thought that was the worst of it, but no, it got even more complicated. Turns out, the historic house he bought, it's not just haunted, it's a money pit. He's in over his head with debt, and now he's begging me to help him, because apparently I'm the smart one with finances. He's desperate, saying he'll lose everything if I don't step in. And as if that wasn't enough, my former best friend is now pregnant. She's convinced it's his, and he's convinced it's not. They're both dragging me into their drama, expecting me to pick sides. I'm trying to stay out of it, but it's hard when they're both blowing up my phone daily. In the midst of all this, I got a promotion at work. It's a big deal. Something I've been working towards for years. But when I told him, hoping for at least a congrats, he brushed it off, saying that my new role would take too much time away from us, and our problems. It was clear he didn't care about my success, only about how it affected him. I've been trying to focus on myself, on healing and moving on. But he keeps pulling me back in with his problems, his drama. It's like he can't stand to see me doing well without him. I'm starting to realize that maybe he's been manipulating me all along, keeping me on this roller coaster of emotions, so I can't focus on my own life. I've been talking to some friends, and they're all saying the same thing. I need to cut him out completely. It's hard, though. We've been through so much, and a part of me still cares about him. But I'm beginning to see that this isn't love. It's a toxic cycle that I need to break. So, that's where I'm at. Trying to navigate this chaos while keeping my head above water. It's not easy, but I'm doing my best. Thanks for reading. Aita for doubting my friend and boyfriend after she kissed him at her party. I, 25-year-old female, am not sure if my good friend of 10+ years, 26-year-old female, has some sort of attraction to my boyfriend, 26-year-old male, of 2.5 years. But there have been a few instances where I had a weird gut feeling about her behavior and found it slightly suspicious. However, it was always very subtle, so I'm not sure I can call it flirting. It started after I first introduced him to my friends. She quickly added him on social media after this hangout. She later texted me, "Hey, by the way, I added your boyfriend on social media. I'm telling you right now before you found out by yourself and freak out," which was fine by me. However, I hung out with her a few weeks later, and she kept asking me if I was sure I was okay with that. I said yes, but she kept insisting to make sure, and asked me 2 more times. At this point, I was thinking to myself, if she was so worried about it, why didn't she check with me before adding him? A few days later, she sends me the Instagram profile of a guy asking me if I think he looks like my boyfriend. I said yes, especially on certain pictures, and laughed it off. I later see that she's following him and liked all the pictures where the guy looked the most like my boyfriend. Another time we went to a sports game, all 3 of us, and another friend. She was always trying to stand so close to him throughout the whole evening, meaning she was standing between me and my boyfriend 80% of the time. So as we were walking up the stairs to find our seats, she would also be standing behind him. At one point, we realized that we're in the wrong alley, and we should go back down the stairs towards another alley. She therefore proceeds to get really close to him to tell him that in his ear, there was noise, but we could understand each other fine if we raised our voice a little. This made me quite uncomfortable, to be honest, but I didn't say anything. After the first half, my boyfriend got up to get us drinks. She then asked me if I wanted to sit next to my other friend, to which I said I'm good. But she insisted again 3 more times to know if I was sure. I'm not kidding. The situation would have made it so that she would end up sitting either next to my boyfriend or on the far end next to my friend and random people. After the game, we were waiting at the bus stop and saw one of the players outside alone. She grabs my boyfriend's arm, asking him to ask the player if we could have a picture with him, which he does a bit hesitantly. In the end, my boyfriend takes the pic with his phone and we move on. On the way back to the bus stop, she kept asking us to send her the pic, which my boyfriend was working on, trying to find it in the gallery. At some point, she says that she can give him her number so that he can text her the pic, to which my boyfriend replied that he'll send it to me and I'll send it to her. As we were walking, she was still trying to put herself next to my boyfriend on the sidewalk, until he finally moves over to walk next to me. She is not acting this way when we hang out with a bigger group, but I can feel a shift in her energy when he talks to her, though, acting all giddy and cute. However, I never saw her act like that with any other friends' boyfriends, which makes me wonder. She did a couple of things in her recent past that sadly had me question her morality a bit and made me want to distance myself for a while. Infidelity and not taking accountability. Small lies about her intentions, but she never did anything to me. And I like to believe that we all make mistakes and no one's perfect. That's why we hung out again. How should I address the situation? I don't know if I should bring it up or if I'm overreacting. I'm confused about what her intentions could be. We won't be hanging out only the 3 of us again since some things felt uncomfortable. Now for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now for the update. Thanks for the comments on my last post. Well, things escalated quickly. My friend, let's call her Miss X, threw a party at her place. It was supposed to be a girls' night, but she ended up inviting my boyfriend too, saying she wanted it to be a more the merrier kind of thing. I found it odd, but didn't want to make a scene. At the party, Miss X was all over the place, laughing too loud, touching my boyfriend's arm every chance she got. I was getting more and more annoyed, but I kept my cool. Then, out of nowhere, she announced she's moving across the country for a job opportunity. Everyone was shocked, but she looked straight at my boyfriend when she said it, like she wanted to see his reaction. He just smiled and congratulated her, but I saw something else in his eyes. I can't put my finger on it, but it bothered me. The next day, my boyfriend told me he needed to talk. He confessed that Miss X had kissed him at the party when I wasn't around. He said he pushed her away and that it meant nothing. I was furious, not just with her, but with him too. How could he have kept this from me until now? He apologized, said he didn't want to hurt me. I wanted to scream, to throw things, but I didn't. I just sat there, feeling numb. I confronted Miss X about it. She cried, said it was a mistake, that she was just scared about the big move and feeling vulnerable. I didn't buy it. She begged me not to cut her off, promised it would never happen again. I told her I needed space to think. She's moving away anyway, so what's the point in arguing? But then, my boyfriend dropped another bombshell. He's been offered a job in the same city Miss X is moving to. It's a great opportunity for him, he says. I can't shake the feeling that this is more than a coincidence. He swears it's not, that he's not interested in her, that he wants me to move with him. But can I trust him? Can I trust her? It feels like my world is spinning out of control. I haven't decided what to do yet. Part of me wants to pack up and leave, start fresh somewhere else. But then I think about our relationship and all the good times we've had. It's not easy to just walk away from that. And what if I'm just being paranoid? What if this is all just a big misunderstanding? So, for now, I'm staying put. I'm watching and waiting, trying to figure out what's really going on. It's hard, though. Every time I look at my boyfriend, I see Miss X's face. And I wonder if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life by not leaving. But I can't help it. I love him, even if it means I might get hurt in the end. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.